Hey everybody, Chris Gilmore here with WPTV. I'm an anchor reporter here at the station, and I am here to help you with your tax questions that you may have today. Joined by tax expert, so to speak, Miss Chantelle Brown, a tax accountant and owner of A-Class Tax Solutions here in West Palm Beach. How you doing, Miss Brown?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing today, Chris?
Not too bad. Now we're probably getting into one of the most busy time of the year for you, tax season. A lot of people getting their W-2s and tax information. What documents, first off, should people start gathering as they get ready to tackle their taxes?
So the first thing is we want to make sure that we gather all the income documents that is going to include W-2s from any employers that you worked for during the tax year of 2020, as well as 1099s, interest statements, dividend statements. So any of your documents that you have pertaining to your income, and especially your unemployment, because we've had a lot of people that have been coming in and actually forgot that they had unemployment throughout the year. Not sure how, but there and a lot of people, and I think what the thing is, a lot of people were not sure that unemployment is actually a taxable form of income. So you want to make sure
Right.
that if you had unemployment, that you be sure to advise your tax specialist of that.
Right. And Ms. Brown, a lot of people are going to be tuning into this during their lunch break. This is live streaming. So we want to encourage those of you who are joining us during their lunch break. We know that 2020, 2019 has been a rough patch for a lot of people in terms of the pandemic and then also navigating that with your tax documents, unemployment, as you mentioned. So if you have any questions, we encourage you to go ahead and type them into the chat box, and I'll be looking for those. And while we have Miss Brown here, thanking her so much for her time, we'll also pepper her with some questions and see if we can, get some solutions there for you guys as we do get closer to the tax deadline. And speaking of the tax deadline, is it the same as it is most years, or are we seeing that being pushed back a little bit because of what we're going through?
So at this moment, it has not been stated that the tax deadline is going to be expanded or past April the 15th. But as we saw last year, anything definitely is possible depending on, I'm going to say, maybe timeliness of being able to get your tax documents in time, because I know that there has been still a delay with a lot of people with mail.
Okay, like you said, right now it's the organization process. Oh, we are getting a question in right off the top from Paula. Paula says, "What about the stimulus money? I knew we were going to get into this topic.
Yes.
Is that money to be included in your taxable income? Are you going to have to report that once you are filing your taxes?"
So actually, Paula, that is actually a really good question, because we've been getting that one a lot as well. The thing about the stimulus checks is when we received the stimulus, it was actually an advance payment on a tax credit. So the monies that we received as stimulus payments are not taxable income. However, if you did not receive the full amount that you were entitled to, based on the number of dependents or number of people on the tax return, then you can also claim that on your 2020 taxes, but it is not taxable. It's not a taxable form of income. It's actually a tax credit.
And here's another question that I actually got from one of my colleagues as I was walking into this stream. She wanted me to make sure to ask you because the initial round of stimulus checks were based off of 2019 tax returns, and I guess her people that she knows or are familiar with weren't qualified for it based on their income level. They made too much money, but then as the pandemic rolled around and going into 2020. They lost their job, unfortunately, as many did, and then suddenly became eligible. How are they going to deal with that? Or are they still eligible to get their money? Are there any special forms for them to file in order to become eligible?
So what I would say is that for my clients, what we're doing is we're reconciling that on their 2020 tax return. One of the things is that we're asked, how much did you receive on the stimulus check? Because even when we received it, it was based off of the 2019 taxes. It was still a credit for 2020. So I would say that should just let your tax specialist know how much you received, and they would be able to figure out what the difference would be, if there is a difference, and what you would be able to qualify for when filing your 2020 taxes.
Okay, we have another question coming in from Facebook from David. David says, "When is the first day the IRS will accept tax returns filing for 2020?"
So, David, the actual official date for tax for them that start accepting the taxes is Friday, February the 12th. However, they do hub testing, what they call hub testing every year, and that's simply what they do to make sure the IRS does to make sure that the systems are working properly, and that hub testing actually starts today.
Okay, so David's one of the early birds. And we have
Yes.
another question coming in from Facebook from Dayami. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But she asks if I'm a dependent but want to file as the independent, would it affect my parents' qualifications for the health insurance purposes? She says she has a younger brother who receives low cost or free health care due to the household not having much income. So would her status affect her parents' qualifications for health insurance?
I'm going to say that is going to be dependent upon what actual program they're receiving, because a lot of those programs that give you low cost or free, depending on like if it was through healthcare.gov, um, it definitely does depend on the family size as well as the income. So what I would say is definitely have a conversation with someone to find out. So you would need to talk to a tax person as well as an insurance agent in order to find out how that is going to be affecting your parents' taxes if you were to come out and become independent.
Okay, I see another question based on the whole independence status from Dagmar here on Facebook. They're asking, can I have my daughter who lives with me claim her siblings?
So now that is going to be dependent upon Dagmar if your daughter is providing more than 50% of their care. So if she provides more than 50% of the cost of their living, so support, she lived in the household as the, I guess, head of household, the person that's responsible for paying more than half of the cost of living for them, then absolutely they would qualify for her to be able to claim them based on their relationship.
And
But
their
it also
siblings, and
depends on support.
they can only be claimed once, from what I know, right?
Correct. So each social security number can only be used as a dependent on one person's tax return. So absolutely, Chris, the mother can't claim them or the parent can't claim them and then someone else. Only each child can only be claimed once.
Okay, and going into again Friday being the first day, as we heard from David's question, that you can start filing your tax returns. What do you recommend? People have a whole host of different situations because of 2020. In terms of filing, is it best to use an app? Should we go for the route of getting an accountant as yourself to help you file, going through a private company? What do you recommend?
So my recommendation, Chris, is definitely going to be always that you should consult with a professional, because what we find sometimes with a lot of these DIY solutions that you can do it yourself is sometimes they're not accurate. So we find a lot of times that those DIYs are not accurate. But on the other side of it is you want to make sure that you are properly preparing your tax returns. And there are so many changes this year. There are um so many things that are different this year than they have been in the past because of the unique situation that we found ourselves in last year. So I definitely recommend, if it's only for a consultation, that you do speak to a tax professional. So that first thing is that you're making sure you are taking advantage of all of the tax credits and deductions that are available, and that you're doing it legally. And also is making sure that you're reviewing it, because like I say, we see a lot where just mathematically a lot of those DIY sites they're not accurate.
And in the worst case scenario, you don't want to get audited. So
Absolutely.
save, yeah, save yourself.
Correct. Correct.
Another question we have here. This is a long one. I'll read it from you. It's from Heather Norman from Facebook. She says, we filed our taxes March 11th last year, received our state refund back, but we still have not got our federal tax return back. When we go online, it says not enough information. And when calling, we get the computer saying the same thing and can't get a human when calling IRS. We haven't gotten anything saying that. They need more information. We still haven't even got our stimulus. What can I do to find out how to get our federal taxes back?
So what I would say is definitely, Heather, and I do understand what you're going through, because we have people that's having the same situation. So the IRS telephone number, the 1-800-829-1040 line, there's I always just advise people when calling is to just press, I think it's 9, And if you keep pressing the number 9, then it'll allow you to go and speak to someone. But you
Yes, thank you.
definitely,
I'm human.
yes, to speak to a human, because a lot of times what happens is the computer can only give you as much information as the computer has, which is generally nothing. So it's either going to tell you what you want to hear, or it's going to say nothing, right? It's going to say they don't have enough information. But if you actually speak to someone, then they will be able to tell you what's going on. We actually had that situation happen with a client that we filed like last February. They had not heard anything. So they actually came into the office. We called the IRS with them for them to find out that the IRS was going to release their refund. So I would definitely say, if you cannot get through, you can give us a call here at the office, and we'll be more than happy to get the IRS on the line for you so that you can give them a have a conversation with them.
Perfect. Okay, and we have we have a screen for you there where you can see all the numbers and information in order to call that to get that all cleared up for you.
Right.
And
And one of the ones that I don't see on there, Chris, is going to be the number for the stimulus. There is a direct line that you can call if you have not gotten your stimulus check, or if you have any questions. And that number is going to be 1-800 919 9835. That's 1-800-919-9835. So what happens on that line when you call, they won't take any of your personal information, but if you have a direct question that they're unable to answer, they will transfer you to a live person that can assist you with that. So that last viewer, I would definitely recommend maybe they give that line a call, because you're going to get a human, and then they can transfer you to the person you need to speak with regarding your taxes.
all right, thank you so much for answering that. We have that number up on your screen. Our producer's working hard for getting you all that information. We also just posted the screen up for you a while ago for getting clarification on those other tax documents. A question we also had coming into this stream is about stimulus checks. A lot of people, happy if they got them. If they didn't, they're anxiously waiting for them, especially as
Yes.
we approach a possible another round of them. You mentioned that it's non-taxable money; those stimulus checks. If you haven't got them, how are they going to affect your filings? You said that it's based on a credit, so
Right.
how's it going to affect your filing?
So if you have not received the stimulus, or if you didn't receive the full amount of the stimulus when you file your taxes, you're definitely going to let your tax specialist know that, and then it's added to your refund amount. If you're getting a refund, but it's added to your taxes for this 2020 tax filing season. So when you're coming in to get your taxes done, if you have not gotten it, so what we do is, because we don't want your tax refund to be delayed. So what we've noticed, so what we do is we go to the IRS website to see if you have a date, because some people haven't received it, but they actually, if you check the IRS, get my stimulus payment, I think is what it's called, you will see possibly that there's a date that they're either going to direct deposit or mail it. If we go on there and notice that there's not a date at all on there for you, then we just add it to your 2020 tax return, add the credit to the 2020 tax return.
Right, that could be a great incentive for getting your taxes in early.
Right,
And is
right.
this the Get My Stimulus Check a website we have up?
Absolutely. This is definitely the page. And then you click on Get My Payment. When you're going in, what you want to make sure is that you have, however you filed your taxes in 2019 or 2020, how the address, you want to make sure that you put that in exactly the way that it's filed, because otherwise you will get an error message that say they don't have enough information. But when you go to that website, you'll be able to put in, I think it asks for your social, your date of birth, your address, and your zip code, and it'll tell you about your first stimulus check, as well as the second one, if there's a date, or if it had been paid. Now, if it says that they need more information, then at that point I would say add it as a credit on your 2020 tax return.
Perfect, perfect. And again, guys, as we heard, Friday, first day that you could file your income tax returns. I want to go ahead and encourage anyone who's watching. First off, thank you for tuning in during your lunch break. But also, if you have any questions, now's the time to type them in. We have the tax specialist here. I can't answer the questions as well as she can. I have some questions myself. So I want to go ahead and just here we have another question from Facebook. The question is, what if I receive SSI disability for my child? Should that be included as income? Uh, we're having trouble with your audio there.
I apologize. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah,
So
we
that is
got one.
actually Technology is good when it works. That is actually a good question because we see this happening a lot. A lot. So SSI disability is not a taxable form of income. So what happens is a lot of times, so at the end of the year, when you get your income documents, you're going to get the same document that someone on Social Security retirement receives. If it is disability, however, it's not taxable and should not be included on your tax return. So SSI disability is not a taxable form of income and should not be added on the tax return.
Okay, perfect. Any other major changes that we're seeing this year to our tax return filings in comparison to previous years?
Oh God.
How much
Yes,
time
yes,
do you
yes,
have?
yes. Right, right. So one of the biggest changes that we have seen is definitely with the stimulus payments, where if you have not received the stimulus payments, that you're able to get that claim it on your taxes. Another one that we are seeing is with self-employed individuals. There is a credit, and it is a refundable credit if you are self-employed, where and the way that it works is employers were able to pay their employees for sick and family leave. So if they had COVID-19, if they had to um, stay at home because they were either waiting for a test, or if they had to care for someone, if they actually had the virus itself, then the employer was able to pay them sick time, right? But as a self-employed person, there's no one to pay us sick time. So the IRS is allowing us to use that as a credit via form, I think it's 7202,
So
where
for
you're
like a self-contractor, lost wages kind of deal.
correct. So if you are self-employed via you own your own business, if you are independent contractor, even gig worker. So if you are filing a Schedule C on your tax return, there is a credit that will allow you to claim up to 10 days if you had to care for someone, a family member that had COVID or COVID related reasons, or for yourself, and also up to 50 days for if you have children that's under the age of 18 and you were unable to work remotely, or you had to alter how you work because the kids were not in school. So we're finding that that is a credit that is really good, that's helping self-employed people reduce their tax liabilities.
Mhm. We got another question.
Okay.
This is from Wanda on Facebook. She says, should we wait to see if the third stimulus gets approved so we can see if we'll be raising the child's tax credit?
So now that is actually that's a good question, Wanda. It's actually two different things that's going on with that, right? So there is right now a proposal in the House, I believe, for a third stimulus check, which will be, I think it's $1,400 per person on your tax return. But then there's also a credit, the child tax credit is also being proposed to be increased from $2,400 to $3,600 for children under 6, and 3,000 for children 6 to 17, or 6 to 17. And the way that they're looking at doing the child tax credit is making it an advanceable credit. If it is passed, then beginning around July, I think is what they're saying, they are looking at paying those payments out monthly. So either $250 or $300 per month based on the child's age and the income of the person that's claiming that child. They'll get those checks monthly per child in order to help with loss of income and to help stimulate the economy. So I would definitely say that we want to keep our eyes out on that and make sure that because I know a lot of times it has been said that if you only have 3, like, don't claim, if you have 5 kids, don't claim all 5 of your children on your tax return because you're not going to get the credit for it. So what I'm advising all of my clients is, first thing is you want to claim your kids because you want to reduce fraud, right? But on the other side of that is you want to claim your children, all of your children on your tax return that you're legally able to claim, simply because you don't want to miss out on any funding that is going to come in way of relief from loss of income.
Okay, I saw an interesting question just pop up. This one's from Dee Dee, and this uh, touches on dependents turning into adults. Will a 17-year-old from last year now 18 recover stimulus payments on a tax return if they're filing on their own this season?
So I would say that that's going to be a relative question only because if they are still 18, so if they're 18, then they are technically still the dependent of their parents. Up to the age of 18, they're still the dependent of their parents. But if they're filing as an independent and the parent, so if they're filing their own tax return and the parent cannot claim them based on the fact maybe they didn't live in the home, um, for the last or for 6 months out of the year, the parents, they were able to provide for their own care, then absolutely they would be able to claim the $600 stimulus on their tax return.
Okay, perfect. I have another question based on young people filing. This one is actually coming from the IRS website that I found. The frequently asked question there is, how much income can an unmarried dependent student make before he or she must file an income tax return? An unmarried dependent student, how much can they make before he or she must file an income tax return?
So it's going to be based on their age. So if they are under the age of 18, I'm sorry, under the age of 19, so that's 18 and under, or under the age of 24, so that's 19 through 23, and they are a student, then there's no cap on their income. They're still their parents' dependent based on the fact that they are in school. Now, if they are over the age of 24 or 19 and over and not in school, then their income, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be they can't make more than like $4,000, which was it's a little not exact, but it's around 4,000, which would have been based on the exemptions when we did have exemptions on the tax return.
Okay, thank you for answering that. I don't know how you have all these answers, but I'm glad you're here. Because, we have another good question from Olivia. This one deals with, COVID and job loss. What if you have a part-time job and a self-employment income and have lost your earnings due to COVID? I think we touched on this earlier, but this is good for all those who are just joining us. Um,
Okay.
the part-time job paid, but the self-employment couldn't make earnings due to COVID. Would someone still qualify for the Schedule C Form 7202 for the loss of self-employment earnings?
So no. And that's because so what happens is in order to so if there was no self-employment income, then there is no credit to give because the way that that credit is working is it's based on you having a profit. So a net profit. So there's basically meaning like if you say you normally make $20,000 but you only made $10,000 this year and your profit was $5,000, then you will get a credit based on you having $5,000 worth of profit. But if you're taking a loss or there's no income that was earned, unfortunately right now there is not a credit that's going to replace that income. So this credit really is just to be able to mirror what an employed person would have received from their employer if they got the sick leave that was paid to them.
Uh, this touches on unemployment as well. You touched on it at the beginning of the stream. What about those who are receiving unemployment payment? What are they eligible for, or why is it important for them to file those documents?
So the first reason why it's important is because unemployment is a taxable form of income. So if your only income was unemployment, for 2020, if the only income you had was unemployment, if your unemployment is lower than your standard deduction, so if you are a single taxpayer and your income for unemployment was lower than $12,400, I think is what the standard deduction is, then you don't have a filing requirement. You wouldn't have to file. However, if it's greater than that amount, then you have a legal responsibility to file your taxes based on that. So we want to make sure that the other side to that is what we're seeing is there's a lot of people who and one of the changes that I didn't get to hit on is there's a lot of people who did not work as much in 2020 as they did in 2019. If you have dependents and you otherwise would have had all things been regular in 2020, your income that you would have produced would have yielded you the eligibility for the earned income tax credit. Even if you didn't work in 2020 or didn't work as much, they have what is called the look back credit, which will allow us to use your income, your adjusted gross income or your earned income from 2019 on your 2020 tax return in order to help you still be able to qualify for the earned income tax credit. So even if you didn't work as much or your only income was unemployment, if you do have dependent children that would otherwise qualify you for that credit, you can still be able to qualify for a refund using the look back credit.
All right. Okay. We're getting our last questions in from Facebook, guys, as our final minutes of the stream. So make sure you get them in while we have Ms. Brown here. We have one from Lynn from Facebook asking, when will the Form 2210 underpayment of estimated taxes be processed so people can file? Seems like they're waiting on that.
I'm not exactly sure.
Well, they
I'm not
followed
sure
up
if
and
I
they asked, it seems that maybe holding people up in their filings. They want to know when it can be processed so they can go ahead and file. Is that an obstacle that you've seen?
That's not an obstacle that we've seen. Generally, with the underpayment of estimated taxes or the underpayment of withholdings, that's normally something with 2210. That's normally something that you would file with your tax return, not separate. So I'm not exact. I think I would need more information. So what I can do is I can definitely reach out to that viewer directly so that I can get more information to be able to accurately answer the question that they're asking.
Okay, Lynn, you want to contact Miss Brown over at A1 Tax Solutions over there. What about? Oh, we just got another one coming from Charmaine. She says she's always claimed her mother on her tax returns. Should she expect to get a stimulus check? She never got any of the stimulus check up until now.
Okay, Charmaine. So here's a tough one, right? Because your mom was technically your dependent on your tax return, she does not qualify for the stimulus check because as dependents, they had to be under a certain age, which I believe it was under 17 in order to get the stimulus. So that would apply to any dependents over the age of 17 who would have otherwise qualified based on maybe their disability check or their social security check, that they would not qualify for the stimulus checks, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. And then rapid fire again. We have another question from Olivia. She's asking any advice for someone who's waiting on their 2019 return still due to filing issues for 1095A and Form 8885.
So if you have already filed so what happens is if you didn't claim that's the reconciliation for healthcare or the marketplace insurance. So what should happen is the first thing is you have to go ahead and file the 1095A and the 8962 form, which is the reconciliation form. And that once you fill that out, that can be faxed into the IRS. And it generally takes them about 6 to 8 weeks to process those through. If it
Yeah,
has
we can
not
follow up
been
with more information there. She said the corrected form was faxed, but still waiting.
Okay, so I would say that it's been greater than 6 to 8 weeks that you contact the IRS to confirm that they received that form. Because it normally takes them, when we've had clients, about 6 to 8 weeks has been the process time, and that's even during COVID.
Okay, so that's definitely a situation where you want to go see a tax accountant yourself rather than
Right.
try and navigate it on your own. You don't want to add to that wait time. I'm sure you want to see that return come in. Um, I think Wanda has a question here. I'm not sure if we addressed this already. She says, if you are an adult dependent and didn't receive the stimulus payment, can you file this year on your own? Can you get the stimulus?
So if you are an adult dependent and you are normally claimed. So yes, as long as you're not claimed by someone else this tax year in 2020, then you could definitely qualify for the $600. So I'm not sure that you'll qualify for the 1,200 because it was based on the 2019 tax filings, but the $600 absolutely. As long as you're not claimed as a dependent, you should be able to go ahead and get that stimulus check payment.
Okay, this will probably be the last question that we take. This one is from Diana. She's asking, if my daughter is a full-time student and she has two W's, I think that's W-2s maybe, does she file them and we not claim her, or can she file them anyways?
She can file them anyway. So what's going to happen, Diana, when she gets ready to file her taxes, the tax specialist should ask her, can she be claimed by another taxpayer? The answer is yes. That will allow her to file her taxes and get whatever refund back is due based on what her withholdings was. But you, as the parent, still capable of claiming her on your tax return as well.
All right, there's our last question. We did it. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Chantelle Brown. if you guys are just joining us, we're going to go ahead and post this recorded stream on our Facebook page. Clearly, you guys have a lot of questions. The good news is that we're still very early in the tax filing season. The first day to officially file is coming up this Friday. We will be back next week, though, with some more of your questions. So we will also have more tax and wealth strategists, tax accountants, but we really want to give a little digital round of applause for Chantelle Brown here from A-Class Tax Solutions. I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad you do, because
Thank
clearly
you.
a lot of people have some questions. Our unsung hero there. So again, guys, save your time on your lunch breaks for next week. Tuesday, Tax Tuesdays here at WPTV. We're going to be doing this all the way up to tax filing. So go ahead and save your questions, and we will go ahead and do our best to get them answered. And again, a last thank you to you, Ms. Brown. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what I would say, Chris, if there's any other questions from today after we end, that my staff and I will definitely go through the feed and answer whatever questions directly that we can.
Perfect. She's talking to you, Lynn. So go ahead
Yeah.
and get those questions answered. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity.